blame myself, right? I'm not telling people what Islam is. I'm not showing them the proper message of Islam, right? I'm partly to blame. I'm not telling people who Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was and what his life was about. That he was such a merciful, such a compassionate human being, right? There's a time in the early Meccan period that there was a man by the name of Tufail, right? Tufail from the tribe of Dos. And he came to the messenger, and it's very interesting how he accepted Islam and all that. So, and he came to the messenger, he accepted Islam, and the messenger told him to go back to his tribe and preach to them and teach to them about this way of life, right? And tell them about Islam. So he came back after a little while, very disgruntled, very frustrated. He said, I told them about Islam, they're not listening, they're not accepting, they're just not accepting. Make dua that Allah destroys these people. So the Sahaba say that we saw the messenger raise his hand in dua, and we're like, oh my God, that's it. Dos is going to be wiped off the face of the earth. That tribe is done. Okay? And when he raised his hands and opened his mouth, you know what he said? He said, Allahumma mahdi Dos. Oh Allah, guide the people of Dos. Bless them with guidance. And then he said to Tufail, now you go back to your people and you be kind, be generous, empathize with them, and do your job. And it's narrated that he came back almost 20 years later. Imagine seeing someone after 20 years, what that would be like. It's like a flashback, right? Like, whoa. So he came back after 20 years, and they're like, oh, that's Tufail from Dos. Man, where have you been? And they say he had the entire tribe of Dos behind him. And he said, my entire tribe has come to accept Islam. My entire tribe. That's the compassion, the love that the Messenger had for all of humanity. Right? And there's another incident where there was during the battles. There were battles during the lifetime of the Messenger. I mean, there's a war going on right now, right? Right? So it's just a political reality of life, right? So there were battles. I mean, we shouldn't hold people to standards that we can't live by ourselves. So yeah, there were wars going on, like there's a war going on right now. So in one particular battle, in the Battle of Hunayn, as it's called, the messengers were fighting the tribe of Khwazin and Thaqif. Okay, and the tribe of Khwazin and Thaqif, they were expert archers. So what they had done is they had positioned themselves, so when the Muslims came closer, they would just fire arrow after arrows, wave after arrows on the Muslims, so they couldn't get any closer. Okay, so the Muslim army, after a while, they got frustrated, and they went to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they told him, the arrows of Thaqif are burning holes in us. Meaning that killing us. We can't take it anymore. Make dua against them. Make dua that Allah destroys them. Once again, the messenger raised his hand. There's a battle going on. Okay? The messenger raised his hand, and when he opened his lips, you know what he said? Allahumma mahdi Thaqif. Oh Allah, guide the people of Thaqif. Have mercy on them. Bless them with guidance. Right? He made dua for people. Right? In the battlefield, while there's a battle going on, he's making dua for people. Not that Allah destroys them, right? And then after that he says, I have been sent not to make dua against people, not to curse people, not to fight people. I have simply been sent as a mercy to mankind. That's all I've been sent for. Okay? So that was the concern for humanity, for his heart bled for people, for everybody. So this is what Islam teaches us. That's what the life of the Messenger demonstrates to us, and this is what our religion has to say on this subject and topic. It's very important, like I said, that we learn this, that we implement it in our lives, and then we preach it to others. Okay. So I think I went way over my time, and I do apologize. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
So would you just open it up for like some little questions and discussion, if possible?
Do we have any questions?
You want some?
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I just had a
Point.
just a comment or two. Jazakallah khair, first of all, for your presentation. I was reading in one of Ibn Taymiyyah's books, and he was translating one of these ayat that you referenced in Surah Al-Ma'idah and whatnot. And what he says is, he says something very interesting. He says that the fact that there is a system present is a proof in itself that there is not indiscriminate killing in Islam. So, for example, if I told you there is no system and there is a system, where is there less killing? Right. The one where there's a system. Right. So the fact that there is an ayah that says kill in this time only, when you historically contextualize it, right, means that there is a system associated with it, and it is not indiscriminate. So that in itself is a proof. That's number one. Also, Muhammad ﷺ is the only spiritual leader to kill, guess how many people in his life? How many people did he kill by his own hand?
Personally?
He killed one person. One person his whole life. That was Muhammad ﷺ. And it was a war casualty. I forgot the exact story, but it was only one person.
When you look at Isa alayhi salam, of course we believe Jesus, we believe in him too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there was wars in his time too, right? He was killed, right? Because they were about to go to war. So you can't say that Jesus didn't fight.
According to Christian belief.
Well, I mean,
according to
right. According to the Christian belief, right? He was killed, right? Because of the fighting, right?
Yeah.
So you can keep that in mind as well. And about taking things out of context, I want to tell you what my 7th grader Sunday schoolers said, and it's really impressive actually. In regards to taking things out of context, I told them about how would you answer to someone who takes things out of context, and they group discussed it, whatever. And these are 7th graders. They said, you know what, Brother Rizwan, I want you to imagine that everything that you've said in a whole year is I have it right here. You have a transcript of everything that you said, and I take one line out. And I said, and where you said something like, "I'm going to kill you, man," okay? Out of context, in let's say March 7th, 2012, you said something like that. Out of the whole year, I take that line out, and I say, "Look, you're a violent person. You're this or that, you're the other, because it says it right here." And they asked me, "Is that fair?" I said, "No, you're absolutely right." So they said, "How can non-Muslims take one line out of the Qur'an and say this is what the Qur'an is saying, right? This is what the Qur'an is saying because they take one line out." Right? It's the same thing as taking a line out of what you said in a whole year, out of context, out of it. These are 7th graders. They can understand this, right? So we need to really think about this in a way that's, not religious terms or anything, just common sense type of things. So keep that in mind as well. You can't pick and choose your ayats, right? Yeah.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, were the attacks of Muslims offensive or defensive?
Some of them were offensive, some of them defensive. Really depends. If people are going to attack you, if you can attack them first, that's on your, that's something you can benefit from.
The Prophet ﷺ, they were generally on the defensive.
Well, obviously,
it became offensive later on in the Umayyad time and stuff like that.
The point was not to attack people, right?
Maulana Yusuf Rahmatullah said that their attacks were neither offensive nor defensive, but their attacks were da'iyana, for dawah. They went for dawah. If they accepted it, they did. Yeah.
Right. I mean, they never attacked without
yes.
without any reason.
For the dawah, that was not a.
The point was not to kill people, right? Right. So, yeah. But people don't realize that. You need to look at it in context, like we talked about.
Anyone else need to make a comment?
Food?
I wanted to make a comment. Generally, people associate Islam with terrorism, and terrorism is associated with killing innocent people, right? So suicide bombings and all that kind of stuff, right? Suicide bombings, killing innocent people. During the time of the Prophet SAW, there was one of the companions about a Muslim person fighting for the Muslim army, and he was fighting, very, very strongly and passionately, and the companions, they said something to the Prophet ﷺ, like, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant him Jannah or something like that. The Prophet ﷺ said, no, he's in hellfire. So one of the companions watched, the guy throughout the rest of the battle, and the guy had received a war wound. So instead of actually, fighting till his actual death, he actually took his life himself to, I guess, ease the pain, so he didn't have to keep suffering through the pain. So the guy fighting for the Muslim army, fighting in the cause of Muhammad SAW and his messenger, then he goes and he kills himself, but yet, obviously he was fighting and he did that. So anyone who's gonna, commit, suicide and also kill people, So that's what we kind of said about the suicide bomber. I mean, you're looking at a time during the battle where someone killed himself fighting for the Muslim army. Right. And that person went to hellfire.
Especially, you guys have your Islam Awareness Week coming up, right? You're going to hear a lot of this stuff, and we need to be wise about it. So again, not be on the defensive anymore, be on the offensive, right? When someone tries to attack, you better make sure they know what they're talking about, because most of the time they don't. It's just one thing that they hear on TV or this and that, and then of course we need to know what we're talking about as well, right? So.
And I think just another piece of advice to anyone is just obviously I think everyone in here is proud of your Islam. Don't be afraid to speak about it. Sometimes people are just, they just go about their ways, go to class, and that's it. If people ask you, what are you going to do? Don't just say, oh, I have some free time right now. Tell them, no, I'm going to pray. And, sometimes they're interested. They don't even realize that we have a prayer room here on campus. And that in and of itself is it's a good dawah, and, shows that you don't want to hide your Islam and that kind of thing.
I found that personally people are interested.
Yeah.
At my work, I pray when I have to. Now my coworkers tell me, dude, you gotta go pray. What are you doing? Let's go. I'm like, oh, okay. If I ever get lazy or whatever, they tell me that, you need to, it's your prayer time, So, or if I'm fasting ever, they're like, no, you better not go near the kitchen food, right? Because I have a habit, I just check the refrigerator a lot. Just magically some food's gonna appear I'm at home or something. So, people are interested. They like to know about Islam, to be very honest, But it all depends on how we portray it, right? Yeah.
I also think that there are also Muslims in this world that are also take the Qur'an in context like Al-Qaeda and Hezbollah and anything. And what arguments can we say about that? Because they do know the Qur'an, they are Muslim, but they are misrepresenting what Islam says.
A lot of times when we see these rebel groups or whatever, their main purpose isn't, when you break it down, it's not Islamic. It's always something else. It's maybe a political reason. They're being oppressed. They don't like the way their system works, right? It's always something else for the most part. It's never really an Islamic issue. So it's always, I think politics comes into more in hand than anything else. And they try to hype people up by saying, oh, if your religion tells you to do this and you need to fight back and whatever. That's when it becomes muddy and confused. I mean, Islam doesn't, we have our own whole history to prove that that's not the case, right? So if these few people are saying that, then they have a certain issue, right? And usually the issue is something more and there's something deeper. It's usually politics or what's going on in the world, right?
Also, I mean, generally speaking, you never judge an ideology, simply by the actions of people, because the actions of human beings are always flawed. You don't judge Christianity based on Timothy McVeigh. You don't judge anybody or anybody of that sort. So you don't judge an ideology based on the application of the human being, because the human being is always flawed.
I mean, Adolf Hitler was a Christian, right?
Yeah.
Right? No one ever says.
Or you could even go back to the KKK. I mean, they were super hardcore Christians, so to speak.
Right? No one, people know they're separate from everyone else. They're weirdos, right? So it's the same thing with Islam. Every group is going to have its bad apples, right? That's inevitable. Yeah.
That's found something else very interesting. I'm taking also a religion class. I mean, it's not teaching your religion, it's just talking generally how to understand it. It's not criticizing or anything, but we always do some every class period we always talk about some religious news right now. Mm-hmm. So one kid he came in class and he talked. How Islam's always in the news nowadays. So he came and he talked about how a lot of people have the misconception that a majority of Muslims are radical, whatever you want to say. Right. So then he showed a chart that they conducted, and it's online too. Anybody can find it, and it showed this chart is 99. It was a chart, and then there's a dot in the center where it's percentage, the distribution of percentages, and it showed 90-something% of the regular Muslims in the world, and then 1% were Taliban, Right. So they're just showing just the what they're highlighting in the media, the 1%,
Right, exactly. It's common sense. Obviously 1.3 billion people can't be out to kill everyone else. That's not going to work.
Not to mention the face of Islam all of a sudden became Osama bin Laden and all these people. Nobody knows Yusuf Qaradawi. Nobody knows Sheikh, nobody knows Nu'man Ali Khan or any of these Islamic scholars. Everybody knows Osama bin Laden. That's it.
Well, I mean, what sells stories? People praying in a mosque or violence?
Yeah, I mean, you have to realize the media is all about entertainment. You have people praying, and that's who cares. You have people doing some crazy stuff, yelling some whatever, and overseas, that's gonna get everyone going, And the thing is, they know exactly what it takes to get us to act that way. They know if they say one small thing about, the Prophet, that people in Pakistan or India are gonna start burning villages and break. They know how we're gonna react. They know that's gonna happen, and that's the news that they're gonna show. So it's really up to us. It's really up to us to take that lead and say, you know what, that's really not fair, right? So.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I know like most Muslims don't vote. I don't vote, but I think like we need to start voting because once they see Muslims on the polls, they're gonna start catering to our needs more. Because like when they see old people or they see like this demographic voting a lot, they try to cater to their needs. But we don't vote, so they don't really care to cater to our needs. So they'll go against us during their debates and whatnot, and they won't really even care.
No, you're absolutely right. You absolutely hit it on the head. We need to get more involved, and voting is the best way. She's absolutely right.
Something Imam Qatanani said.
What's your name? You're a student? Okay.
Alright. Something Imam Qatanani said was, I think it was in the khutbah, like right after the whole NYPD spying class or on jail and whatnot, was that if we were actually a voting power, then the NYPD wouldn't dare do what they did. Meaning that if we actually had some sort of political discourse, then people basically wouldn't do anything to us. Now, one community, if you take a look at them, is the Aga Khani community. And now the Aga Khani community is based out of India, but they have a very wide network in the United States and in the West itself. Is that they're extremely involved in politics. They're extremely very well assimilated into the system. But with all due respect, we're still lost in, oh my God, is voting halal or haram? It's yeah, you know what? Keep fighting over that and die fighting over that because it's you either gotta get things done or just get lost in the wind.
You're absolutely right. That just piggybacks what the sister was saying, right? And by the way, with the whole of the spying thing, what I found really interesting that they never even, it's kind of like a minor note. They never found any type of suspicious activity, any type of terrorist student or whatever. They never found anything, right? None, not a single one. They'll admit, yeah, we didn't find anything. I mean, they spied on everyone in restaurants, masajids, and then say you name it, everything. Not one suspicious activity, whatever. I was looking at their list of all the restaurants. They have everything about that restaurant. They even have menus and stuff. So if you want to check it out, ask the FBI. They got it all down. But no, the point is they didn't find a single thing. That proves that there's this paranoia is that's all it is. Just a lot paranoia, right? Yes.
I just remember one of the sisters was talking about how some Muslims misquote or whatever versus she said the Taliban or Al Qaeda or whatever. But I also want to say a note for just Muslims as well. The thing is that a lot of times the media shows only one side of the story. So I mean I've even heard I think one sister converted to Islam because supposedly she was kidnapped by the Taliban and they treated her well, whatever, and then they sent her back, told her you should read the Qur'an. And she read it and then she became Muslim and she told the story that they're really not like what the media portrays.
Right.
But the thing is, as Muslims, we never know really. So I would say, just as Muslims, we should stay neutral on any situation where it could be either or. Because let's say we curse somebody or say that they're wrong, and then they could come back on us.
Mm-hmm.
So just say just careful, because sometimes the media only shows one side of the story.
Right. I remember hearing about that actually.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, I just wanted to add, in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, which you alluded to, when they came and they said that the Prophet is crazy and a magician and all of this, everybody was saying, now keep in mind, if you draw parallels from this, you'll see that they had the media power. Quraysh had the media power. They were investing money and time and resources to tell people, go tell your tribe that Muhammad is crazy, Muhammad is nuts, Muhammad is a sorcerer and a poet. Tell him all this. And then they would go do that, and then Allah documents this in Surah Al-Anfal, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُمْ لِيَصُدُّوا عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ فَسَيُنْفِقُونَها ثُمَّ تَكُونُ عَلَيْهِمْ حَسْرَةً ثُمَّ يُغْلَبُونَ وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا إِلَى جَهَنَّمَ يُحْشَرُونَ. Basically what Allah says is that basically these people, الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا Quraysh, they will invest their time and their money and their resources to deprive others from seeing the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they will definitely do that. And then what will happen? Everybody who went and did that, everybody was like, what's the big fuss? I want to know who this Muhammad guy is. Right. And when they go and meet Muhammad, what do they say? Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. So immediately, subhanAllah, they are investing all their time and their resources and their money to say Islam is bad. Now how many masahif were sold after 9/11? It rose exponentially, subhanAllah. It's the same, wallahi, sunnat Allah. It's the tradition of Allah that they will invest and it will backfire. It will surround them. تَكُونُ عَلَيْهِمْ حَسْرًا. So I mean, this is only a plan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Also, when I found this interesting, when they called him a magician, a sorcerer who was possessed by the devil, these are all actually compliments, to be honest. Okay, so this man, he brings a message, right? And the Arabs were known for their poetry, right? They're known for their poetry. Everyone knows that. And so they're known for their poetry. So it's nothing new that a person has new poetry, right? It's always poetry. But they realize this poetry has an effect on people. There's this effect. People start, they start worshiping one God. They start giving up all these idols. They start, changing everything about them. So that's why they called it magic. And just by calling him a magician, calling him, possessed by this or that, they're already saying what? That it's not normal poetry, right? It's not, a human can't have done this. This is not human words. So they realize there's something else. They're not saying it's the words of Allah yet, but they're saying that they're already like confessing that it's not the word of a man by saying it's the word of the devil or something, right? So in of itself, that's already a compliment in a way that he didn't write this himself, right?
I think we're done, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Very beneficial. Just two quick announcements. One is tomorrow, Sisters Halakha, 4:45 to 6. Topic is backbiting. So inshallah, I believe you guys are going to meet in the spirituality room as usual. So definitely try to come out and get to that, inshallah. Also, Brother Gul, you want to make an announcement?
Sisters don't backbite, right?
Huh?
They don't backbite.
Okay. So again, what time is it? To when? Okay. Make sure.
Okay, dear brothers and sisters, I just want to make a request, and that request is in the corollary of all this, what has been said, that as in the Quran this says that كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله. So this is our responsibility. Believe me, we are sent here. We are not something. If you think about it, how are we in this place? So that's what we were sent here. So to do this, like as what is said, everything, I want to just make one quick request that now what break is this?
Spring break.
Spring break is spring break is coming up. So I request all the sisters to spare at least 3 days, and boys also, brothers, in the path of Allah for 3 days. And there is a markaz in Patterson. So if you cannot make any jamaat, because believe me, this ummah, this work of dawah, you can do it individually, but Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam sent jamaat. So this is something like a teamwork. So that's very important. So we request you to find some time and go in for 3 days. So who will be ready, brother, to go for